I moved into a renovated house in the historic district of Eastvale with my older sister Diana and her 4-month-old baby. The rent was unbelievably low, and I wanted to help Diana care for her child. Our 2 pit bulls and a quiet cat made the house feel lively, but soon I began to notice unsettling signs that something was not right. One cool evening, while Diana and I sat in the living room watching television, I noticed both of our dogs suddenly stiffen. They lifted their heads and stared upward, their fur standing on end, and a low, deep growl emanated from them, a sound I had never heard before. In that moment, a heavy thud from upstairs shattered the calm. The noise was loud and sudden, like a large object had fallen, and it filled the house with an eerie resonance. I left the living room to investigate. I walked slowly up the creaky stairs and opened the door to Diana's room, which was located right above the living area. The room was neat and undisturbed, with everything arranged just as it had been. I checked the small bathroom and the nursery next door, yet nothing seemed out of place. The sound that had disturbed me earlier remained an unanswered mystery, leaving a lingering feeling of dread. As I began to descend the stairs, a powerful pounding sound at the front door made me freeze. The impact of the blows echoed through the house, and our dogs immediately sprang into action, barking furiously and rushing to the door as if they sensed an imminent threat. My heart pounded as I slowly approached the door. When I finally unlocked and opened it, I found only the empty street outside, bathed in the cold light of the early morning. No one was there, but the unsettling memory of that forceful pounding would not fade. A few days later, on a quiet Friday evening, I sat down for dinner in the living room with Diana and her baby. As we ate, the dogs grew restless again. This time, they fixated on the door that led to the basement where my room was. Their fur bristled, and I felt a chill as a sense of foreboding crept over me. Without warning, the basement door burst open with tremendous force. It swung violently against the wall, and the doorknob even suffered a small dent from the impact. The noise was so sudden and jarring that it shook the entire hallway. Startled and frightened, Diana quickly gathered the baby and retreated upstairs, leaving me to stand alone in a state of shock. The next morning, while I was watching television alone, one of the dogs began barking at the side porch. I looked out the window and saw a man standing there. He wore a neat brown suit and a hat that gave him the air of someone from an old gangster film. He did not knock or call out. He simply stood there, silently observing the house as if he belonged to a world beyond my own. His stillness and vacant stare sent a shiver down my spine, and I couldn't shake the unsettling feeling he provoked. On the following Monday, when I returned home from work, I was taken aback to see the same man again, standing on the porch. His presence was identical to the day before. The perfectly ironed brown suit, the spotless hat, and an expressionless face. Summoning my courage, I stepped outside and moved closer to him. As I approached, I noticed his skin was unusually pale, and his piercing blue eyes were encircled by dark, tired rings. His polished shoes glinted in the soft light. But it was the blank, lifeless look on his face that froze me in place. I tried to make sense of his silent presence, but before I could gather my thoughts, he turned and slowly walked toward the backyard. I hurried after him, yet when I reached the side of the house, he had vanished, as if swallowed by the night. Inside, I struggled to process what I had witnessed. I explained the encounter in my mind, But even though Diana later mentioned that the dogs had barked relentlessly at the windows for nearly half an hour, she had not seen the man at all. The isolation of my experience made me question my own senses, and I felt increasingly alone with the secret terror that had invaded our home. That night, sleep was elusive. I dreamed a vivid and haunting dream in which the mysterious man reappeared on the porch, his silent, empty gaze fixed on the house. I awoke drenched in sweat, my heart pounding as I realized the dream had followed me into reality. As I turned over in bed, I caught a glimpse of him standing in the corner of my room, his expression as blank and implacable as before. A deep, unexplainable sorrow and fear overwhelmed me, and tears streamed down my face uncontrollably. In that moment, I understood that his presence had burrowed deep into my mind, haunting every quiet moment and every shadow in the corner of my vision. Now, as I try to return to normal life in this old, renovated house, the memory of the man in the brown suit lingers like a dark shadow. Every unexpected sound, every creak in the floor, brings with it the chilling reminder that I may not be alone. His silent, unnerving gaze haunts my dreams and my waking moments alike, leaving me with the unsettling feeling that some mysteries are not meant to be solved. Story number 2. I was 13 when my family and I moved to an old house in the quiet town of Willow Grove. The house, built in the early 1900s, was small and unassuming, yet it carried an eerie chill that lingered even during the hottest summer days. We had rented it for 8 months while waiting for our permanent home to be fixed, and from the moment I stepped through the creaking doorway, I sensed that something was not right. Inside, the layout was simple. My parents' room was on the ground floor, while my 2 brothers and I occupied the narrow, steep staircase that led upstairs. That staircase, with its worn wooden steps and tight curves, seemed to have a mind of its own. In the first few days, I stumbled and fell several times, each tumble a jarring reminder of the house's peculiar design. On the first night, as darkness swallowed the house, I lay awake in my room. The silence was heavy, punctuated only by a soft, rhythmic clunking sound echoing from the staircase. It was as if unseen footsteps were pacing endlessly along the corridor, each step resonating in the quiet. The noise filled me with a deep, unexplainable dread, and I couldn't shake the feeling that I was not alone. The following morning, during a subdued breakfast in the dim kitchen, I couldn't stop thinking about that persistent sound. My brothers and I exchanged worried looks, silently acknowledging that something was amiss, though none of us dared speak of it out loud. A few days later, I found myself home alone. My parents were at work, and my brothers were visiting friends. Hoping to banish the unsettling silence, I turned on the television in my room and headed for a long, hot shower. The familiar murmur of the TV provided a small comfort. Yet as I moved through the house, strange occurrences began to unfold. I passed by my brother's room and noticed his TV was on, even though I knew he was not there. Later, I discovered that both the living room and my parents' room televisions had suddenly come to life at a loud volume. The unexpected clamor sent a shock through me, as if the house itself was trying to communicate a hidden message. There was another oddity that haunted my nights. Sometimes I heard a gentle, clear voice calling my name as if my mother were near. I would search the rooms only to find that she was not there. More often than not, she was outside in the garden, immersed in her morning routine. Each time, the experience left me questioning whether it was my imagination or something more mysterious. Years have passed since I left that old house in Willow Grove, yet its memory continues to haunt me in vivid dreams. In these dreams, I return to the house as an adult, only to find it transformed into a surreal labyrinth. Doors burst open with an invisible force, and the lights stubbornly refuse to illuminate the dark corridors. A soft, melancholic piano melody drifts through the halls, a slow, unrecognizable tune that seems to seep from the very walls, even though I never see an actual piano. Most unsettling of all are the stairs in my dreams. Every time I ascend them, they stretch out into an endless loop, twisting and turning with no clear destination. No matter how far I climb, I never reach the top, and the overwhelming sense of being trapped fills me with a terror that lingers long after I awaken. Even though I have not returned to Willow Grove since 2003, the strange sounds, unexplained happenings, and haunting dreams of that old house remain deeply embedded in my memory. Each unexpected creak or whisper in the quiet reminds me that some places hold secrets that never truly leave us, and sometimes the past continues to echo in the present. Thanks for listening. Subscribe for more horror videos. Goodbye.